We're right there, aren't we? Are we there? Yeah. So good. Right. Okay. Remember how to do this. It's been 3 weeks.
It's like riding a bike.
Whew, is it? Okay. Well, then I will call to order our Board of County Commissioners budget workshop meeting for today. We do have a quorum present. All of the commissioners are here in chambers, so welcome. And if you'd join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence afterward, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I will entertain a motion to suspend Robert's rules.
So moved.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. First up, we have Eden Valley Improvement District to present to us regarding their budget. Come on up and introduce yourself. And
Good afternoon. My name is Travis Gines. I'm one of 5 board members in the Eden Valley on the improvement board district. Sorry, is that good?
Now.
Thank you.
Yeah, just had an opportunity to come visit with you folks about the physical budget for next year. And if you had any questions for us, I know last year funding was pretty tight throughout the county for obvious reasons. And we, our funding request, of course, last year we didn't receive any funding from the county. This year we're hoping to change that. So if you have any questions for myself, we do have Teresa here to discuss. She helps us with our books and whatnot, but I believe the funding this year was for $35,000, and that's to help merely for maintenance of our facility in Forest and Eden. We do have an MOA with the cemetery board up there where we get an additional, we asked for $35,000 for this year as well. Year over year, on average, our maintenance for just for the building and the maintenance is about $85,000 is where it's running, roughly there. Yeah, that's kind of where we're at for this year.
Great. Travis, I see looking here, if we're correct, we show about 787 days of cash on hand. Is that correct? Or how could you explain that for us?
No, but I'll let Teresa explain it for me.
Come on up, Teresa.
Yes, we can explain it, but
Thank you.
So are you looking at the cash on hand from the 174,000?
From your submission, yes. Yep.
Okay, so in the community checking account, that includes our 35,000 that we receive from the cemetery district. And we prepare, well, we don't prepare, but we allow any funerals for Eden Valley to be at the community hall with that 35,000. And of course, we know there's been more deaths in the last few years. So that takes up all of our contract labor and any other additional repairs and utilities that we have in there. So between funerals and funeral dinners, that amount won't last for the 175 days because they are increasing. So
What do you think would be your goal for days cash on hand? Or a dollar amount?
Dollar amount.
That's our 100,000 is basically what we have on hand. That's what I would consider cash on hand. So that would get us through one physical year with no additional help from the cemetery board or the county.
Other questions that we may have?
Mr. Chairman,
Sounds right. $100,000.
Commissioner Tolman?
I would just like to point out that Farson does have, I think, what, 6 special districts, so that the community is very, very willing to tax themselves. And the community center is an asset that was funded by a special district tax, but it does not provide any funding for maintenance or maintaining the building. So they do charge rent, but as you see, it doesn't cover all of their expenses. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. Commissioner Wendling?
Yeah. Mr. Guines. Do you charge, am I understanding correctly, you don't charge any fees for anybody that uses it for a funeral?
That's correct. And like I said, we have an MOA with the cemetery board. So they fund a little over, well over a third of that maintenance cost. So in return, they use the facility for the funeral. Yep.
And everything else that goes in there, with possibly the exception of some of your community board meetings that take place, is there fees charged? Are there fees charged?
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, we try to rent the building for whatever occasion, graduations, weddings, wherever we get an opportunity to rent the building, we do. The other source of income, of course, is the scale there. It doesn't bring in a lot, $4,000 or $5,000 a year, depending on the year. Just depends on how much construction going on or how much the scale is actually getting used year to year. But between the cemetery board funding, the county funding that we rely on, that's pretty much it. We rely on rentals and the scale.
What's your
additional
bond
funding.
payment every year?
Pardon?
What's your payment on your bond every year?
Around 180,000. And we get that from tax levy though.
I understand that.
So
So when that's paid off, will you have any additional dollars for maintenance in that then?
no, because from my understanding, that goes back to the county if we have not used it for our bonds or paid down the bonds, it goes back to the county. The additional amount that we have from the bonds currently is the 113,100 that currently goes for maintenance projects. And the 3,739 that was left over from the scale account many years ago and just has not been used up. But I will tell you that the maintenance costs are increasing every year between 10 to 15,000 a year because the building's getting older and a lot of the heating and air conditioning are having problems. And we're having to resurface the parking lot. Also, our utilities are going up substantially, as you guys all know, yours are as well.
Yeah. So is there a potential that over the years that 35 could increase to more money?
We hope so, but again, they get their money from the tax levy.
Okay.
And so if they don't receive the tax levy, then they can't pay us
From the cemetery.
from the cemetery board. So if their levy goes down, ours goes down.
Kind of an albatross. Yeah, it wasn't thought out very well when it was built because there were no contingency plans put into place for maintenance. And
Well, when it was built, remember, the oil field was going, and that's always temporary, right? 10, 15 years is it's still temporary. So those revenues were there. We actually made money one year. We hit an audit, which triggered an audit. So it's been able in the past to pay for itself. But like everything else, I mean,
when did you start coming in asking for money from the county?
that's a good question. I don't have that answer.
But it was several years ago. And it was less than 35,000, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, very much so. Have a rock.
We have also asked the cemetery district to increase theirs each year. So they started at 20 to 25,000, the same as the county would give us. And we told them that we needed more money because of our labor that's involved with the setup. They increased it to 35,000. They would like to increase to 45, but again, they're not receiving enough money either to help out with that.
Are they at a full 3 mil?
Yes, I believe so.
Full 3 mil.
I'm not on that board, so I don't know.
No, you don't know, but it might be something to check into. They may need to take that to a 3 mil. So that amount doesn't continually, you know. So you might want to investigate that and that type of thing, commissioners.
Other questions for Teresa and Travis? Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted, so I was out at one of their meetings, and so I wanted them to kind of talk a little bit about this because it made sense to me in that they host, so they act as many different entities that we do currently fund here in Green River and in Rock Springs, such as the senior center and things like that. So I wanted you guys to just run through some of those different things that you're doing for the community through that center that we haven't been funding in the past.
Yeah, one is Commissioner Schoenfield mentioned our senior luncheon. I think that's a weekly senior luncheon that is sponsored by the community. As I said, weddings, we have graduation parties. As far as the community goes, fundraisers, we have the women's club use the building, the 4-H club uses the building. The water district uses the building and they're all, it's rented, you know, they pay a fee but the fire district as well, they rent the building annually for their fundraisers and whatnot. But by and large, it services it touches everybody in that community, you know, regardless. So this year we have events coming through. I guess they have like a bike tour coming through. We've been able to rent the building for that. So we're always looking at different avenues and opportunities to rent that building, but church functions, you name it, the building gets used as much as we can get it used. So it's utilized.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner.
I've got a question for Ms. Berry, please. Ms. Berry, what do we provide for dollars to Superior for any of their activities? Nothing? Thank you. How about Granger? Nothing. How about Wamsetter? How about Bear Oil? How about McKinnon? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Tillman.
I'd just like to make a point of fact that those are, Eden Valley Farson is not an incorporated city like Granger, Superior, Wamsetter. So they don't have any city assessment that they can collect. And they do charge a pretty steep fee for renting the facility. It's not cheap. It's just when the oil companies were there, they would rent it for much more often and help to meet some of the expenses through the rental. So you might talk about the rental income that you get. I understand also that the facility will be paid off in 5 years. Is that right, from the assessment? I believe that's what they told me at one of the meetings I went to.
Close should be.
Maybe it's 2 or 3 now. So, but that money at any rate cannot be used for operations.
Right.
So that's the difference in
Yeah.
why
and-
they're not collecting as much money right now.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, and Commissioner Tolman's point's well taken, but I'd like to point out that everyone counts in Sweetwater County or nobody counts. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything to add there, Travis?
No, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
can I ask a question?
please.
All right, Mr. Jones, just a question, and maybe I missed it along the way. This year you're asking for 35. Last year you received 0. Have you guys received money in the past before last year
Yes.
at a 35, correct?
25,000 year before, 2 years prior than last year was 25,000.
And just to make sure I'm reading this right, that the money is specifically used mostly for, primarily for upkeep of the facility, building, and maintenance and utilities, correct?
That's all it's used for.
Chairman, I have a question, please. I know you guys have the event center out here. I'm not quite sure how you fund that. Our community center is somewhat the same as the event center. And I know that the county has to give money to the event center. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit, please?
That is a fine question. Yeah, we do own it, so we have the responsibility of the upkeep.
But you would own it if the bonds failed or if we failed in
definitely.
operation, it would go back to
Definitely
the
with
county,
any
correct?
special district, that's the case.
Right.
Yeah. But the bonds aren't going to fail.
I believe it is more than two. We owe 1,351,000.
So it's more than two, Dave? It's more than two, Dave?
Dave Beavis, I'm the Sweetwater County Assessor, and I did some research on this. And we put together some information for a presentation not too long ago. And one of the things I want to point out, and I don't know if you can see my screen yet, but as crazy as this sounds, the biggest value in the Farson district in tax district 102 was underground coal. So as you can see through this slide, you can see the total valuation, and it just mirrors this underground coal number that you see here. Everything else is just very minuscule as far as their total valuation. So as that value goes down, because an improvement district is the purpose of it in this case was to pay off the bonds for the loan to build the facility. This, because the value kept going down, the mill levy had to keep going up to make sure they met their debt schedule. So in this situation, you can see the estimated amount for the mill levy in Farson is going to be almost 13 mills. And it's exactly what Commissioner Tolman had said, is they're willing to tax themselves. Now, no one could have predicted that this was going to go this far. I don't think anybody would have.
180 million down to like $7 million.
The mill levy will keep adjusting itself
Correct.
if the values keep going down.
That is
If
exactly
they
right.
go up, they'll come up. So
Yeah.
it'll take care of itself.
But the biggest part of that value was underground coal, and there just isn't any
There isn't
anymore.
anymore. There isn't anymore.
So this value is going to continue. And back to Teresa's point, it is paid off in July of 2025 is the information that I've got. So oddly enough, I just happen to have the right flash drive with me. But there's their valuation. It started in tax year 2009. They had none of that. And then you can see over time that mill levy has just gone off the charts. And it's simply because that valuation has gone down. But that, again, cannot be used for anything other than the debt schedule. So those tax dollars are paying off the loans and the bonds, but it cannot be for any of the maintenance. So that's, I think, the difference between what we're talking
That's
about.
a burden on the local citizens, the farms in the community.
Absolutely. They're the ones that voted for it. They're the ones that wanted it at the
Yeah, they're
time.
paying for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, I thought that was relevant.
That was great. Thank you. Thanks for having that.
No, I'm glad you had that. Thank you. So
Very good.
2025, it'll be paid off.
They'll probably go through that entire tax year to pay off. I would assume any extra. So I don't know where that goes. I don't. So it's back to the county. Okay. So at that point, it would be refunded back to the county and then done with whatever. So, but this is just a very interesting, and to my knowledge, it's the only one that we have that's doing this type of levy for that. So.
Thank you. Excellent. Travis, Teresa, thank you. Appreciate your presenting to us today and visiting with us and answering our questions and giving us a better understanding of where you guys are at. We appreciate the work you're doing out there. So nice job. And we will move on to, I did ask Mr. Davis to come and present to us our revenue outlook.
Okay, we've been scrambling a little bit today to try and get some of these numbers ready for you. Bonnie and I have been not butting heads, but putting our heads together. So
Those are two different things.
they're much different, much different. So what we've done, and we've got some estimates here. So we think the valuation is going to be about 2,445,000. I've got two different versions of this going, and I'm going with the lower version. I think it's utility values that are down just a little bit, but that amount, it's going to generate roughly and I'm going to round this down just a little bit, 5.7 million in addition to what we had for the 12 mil last year. So it's much better information than what we had thought. We kept predicting it was going to go up, and I can actually show you why. Okay, so we did the SEDC presentation here a couple weeks ago, and one of the slides I presented was the county's total valuation in billions since 2008. So we went forward and we were pretty close. We had 2.4 down here for 2021 as far as the estimate was concerned. But the part that makes this so unpredictable is the mineral values. Okay, so as you can see, the mineral values here, like 2015 to 2016, this blue line is natural gas all by itself. So it lost almost $450 million in value all by itself. So very, very hard to predict. And that's from 1 year to the next. Okay. So in this situation, you can see natural gas and oil kind of track together, but underground coal is in white. Yeah, much later. Remind me much later. And white. Yeah. But it's going to come across. It's probably going to drop here, and there is no more underground coal. I mean, there's just no more value there. You can see uranium's running right at the bottom as well. There's nothing there. Oil and natural gas, of course, track together, but you can see how this is so hard to predict with these value numbers. And then you can see the big uptick here at the end, which is great for us because it's got stuff, it's in relation to what was happening last year. And like I said in the SEDC presentation, Trona is the rock star on this because it's predictable. The green line, I mean, it took a worldwide pandemic for this to drop about 25%. And now we're on our way back to getting right back where we were before. So the industry has recovered. But it's much, much easier as an assessor to predict valuation when you're dealing with the green lines here rather than the blue and the red. They're just really hard to predict. And here's why. This is a chart I go out to daily to look at the price of oil and natural gas. I didn't think I would ever see $6 natural gas, and we are currently today, just now, was $9.37. Okay, oil's $118 a barrel. I don't think, I mean, we knew stuff was going up. If you look back at the predictions, when we were actually starting to go through this stuff, we saw November, December, things were taking off, but we had no idea what was going to happen here. I mean, we had absolutely no idea. And it helps tremendously with our cash, with our monthly collection amounts. Now, the monthly collections, we've got just a couple of months worth of information from the treasurer's office. And Joe would have been here, but he was headed up to the County Treasurers Association meeting. So he was unable to attend, but we did some ballpark numbers. Okay, the monthly collections started in, this is Senate File 60. So the monthly collections started, any minerals extracted in January, where the severance tax amount was paid to the Department of Revenue. They billed the companies for the ad valorem tax, the property tax, and then the Department of Revenue distributed to the treasurers. So what they got, and this was March 8th was the first payment, but that was for, or I'm sorry, April 8th. That was for March's production. And the general fund total was $231,000 on a $27 million valuation. Now, again, just getting started. We knew there were going to be hiccups. We didn't know, I mean, there was going to be hiccups on the producer's end. There was going to be hiccups at the Department of Revenue. So there were going to be issues, but you can see things have started to pick up. The next month, which was May, the valuation was over 100 million. Okay, so it was almost 5 times. So in that situation, the total tax that was receipted in the treasurer's office was 6.3 million. The general fund, now this is just the general fund, not the entire 12 mil, just the general fund, received $784,000. Okay, now we know what the amount's going to be for the May collections, but we don't have the check yet. It's coming next week. So if my simple math is accurate, the county should get just short of $1 million based on the 8.3 that the check is said to be, that's going to be sent. So, and my math, it's about 12%. The general fund gets about 12% of whatever the tax is, just really quick. Now, these numbers are going to fluctuate as the kinks get worked out and things settle, but the monthly collections are coming in, and Bonnie and I talked just a little while ago. We think we did pretty well with our estimates. You know, we got lucky, I'll be honest, but we did pretty well. So, but as far as total valuation, 2.445 is our number. I think we're going to be really close with that. So,
That again?
2,445,000,000 will be the total valuation.
Good. Which would result in what taxes for us?
It would be, if every dollar billed is collected. $5.6 million would be the increase in the 12 mil from last year to this year. But again, with Senate File 60, cash flows are not represented by valuation anymore. We have to rely, it's almost like sales tax revenue anymore. You have to rely on just what shows up. And right now, things are great because the price is so high. But as things come down and settle, those revenues are going to settle as well. Who knows when, but at least for the foreseeable future, I think the revenues are going to be relatively high. So I think we're in decent shape. The price went up at the right time.
Better to be lucky than good sometimes.
Exactly. Very
Like
well
we had
said.
anything to do with it.
Yeah. We were just making estimates, but I think we did pretty well. I think Bonnie and I did really well, actually.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Davis?
Thank you.
Excellent. Bonnie, would you mind enlightening us on our cash carryover? Thank you.
So I ran a new cash carryover projection today. I don't know if you've looked in the end drive, but I've been putting that there as I've been running them. I believe it's around 5.5 million right now. $5,504,080.04 is what my current projection is right now. I did take into account the payroll that was run just last week. So we should be about done with payroll. I think we do have a couple more VSP payouts, voluntary separation program payouts. But we should be, that was the last official payroll run of the year. So we may have a couple if there are any terminations, or I do think there are 2 voluntary separation programs that haven't been paid out yet. And then obviously I'm still projecting our operating and capital through the end of the year, but that's where I'm coming out. The reason it's so high is because we underestimated revenues last year. As Dave had said, we did not project the increase in those prices. So we have about 4 million extra revenue that we collected over budget. And we have about 1.5 million that hasn't been, that we're projecting that won't be spent, that was budgeted for expenditures. So that's how we come up with the 5.5 million.
Nice. I forgot my question. I had something good too. Questions for Bonnie, Miss Berry?
Yes. Bonnie, as the budgets came in, I noticed that most of them are holding the line as far as the same amount as they received last year. Have you been able to compile any variances maybe that we should be considering that if they're way over or way under?
There is a report in there that I included in the summarized comparative budget data. So, I don't know if this is all the. Probably share this. Okay, how do you, this is, oh, it is up there. Okay. So this is what I included in the end drive. So it does have a comparison. And this is the one that I uploaded today. I did upload one 3 weeks ago. But it does show it has an increased percent, increased amount, and it does have it broken down by department, specifically payroll, operating, and capital and total for each department. So if you look at that far right column, you can see the increases, decreases. So that is for your, this is for the departments. If you scroll further down, you get into the component units. You can see the increases and the decreases amounts right here, and then also percentage. And this is compared to their adjusted budget for this year. So if there were any budget amendments, it would include those budget amendments. And then here are the outside agencies right here. So you can see the increase and decrease in request amounts right here. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I had looked at, but I just wanted to bring it to the attention of the rest of the commissioners that
Okay.
I think it's only fair that the ones that have held the line, you know, that we try to honor their budgets, but if there's some, and there are some that have included that 20% cut from last year back into their budgets this year. And so how do we want to equally and fairly address that?
It's a fine discussion that we will have. Other questions for Ms. Berry?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
A question for Ms. Berry. Just kind of taking a look at your numbers. You're currently projecting a 3.28, 170 shortfall. Does that include the cash carryover that included extra revenues and cash carryover from last year?
That does not include the cash carryover from last year. That just includes the revenues we are projecting for this year and the expenditures for what the departments, component units, and outside agencies have requested from the general fund to come up with that almost 3 million shortfall.
Did
And then the cash carryover amount, if I remember right, was around 5.5 with the carryover, including the reserves. I mean, sorry, the extra fund, the unexpected revenue, correct?
Yes, it's around 5.5 million cash carryover from this year's budget. That's what the projected amount is. Obviously, that'll change some.
So,
But
just,
yeah,
so I'm not a mathematician. I don't have a CPA, psychology guy. So I don't always good. I'm not always good at math, and I'm rough numbering here. So if you looked at that carryover, because last year as a commission, we said we wanted to make sure we were willing to go down to $25 million in reserves, and we're currently without ARPA a little over 27 in reserves, correct? Just approximately.
sure.
Okay. Okay.
I don't
So,
remember.
Speaking hypothetically, and I know we're pretty close to those numbers. With that being said, if we were to look at the cash carryover at the difference, we would still have 1.5 extra to put into approximately into reserves, which would be significantly above that 25 we looked at, because last year we thought we were going to have to borrow some to break even this year. And with that extra money that we weren't expecting, we could currently be balanced in the black. Am I correct?
We could. I do have some questions for you before, because
Okay.
I believe there's
I'm
some
just
stuff
talking
missing in
hypothetically,
here.
just seeing where we're at.
There were a few higher dollar items that I don't think are in the budget yet that have been discussed recently. I've been trying to get caught up on my
Okay.
commissioner meetings. I'm a little behind still. I'm almost there, but I did have some questions for you. There are some things that I don't think are in the budget. Do you want me to go through those right now? Would now
That
be a
would be
good
up to the
time?
chair, but
Could I ask first, the version I have had the departments at 37,650,000. That version had 36, about $1 million less. Is there?
I took out the fire department numbers.
Okay. Good job. Thanks.
I zeroed out the fire department, so
Perfect.
that's probably what that changes.
That is. Thank you. Carry on.
And that was one of the things I needed to address. I don't believe there are any fire contract amounts in here, and I believe that will be somewhat substantial. So I don't know what those amounts are. Do we have contracts with the fire departments? And I assume I need to get those numbers in the budget.
That would be true.
So, and those are the things I'm talking about. So, and those are some probably higher dollar items. So we have a couple of items like those that need to be addressed.
What else?
I'm
do we
not
have?
going to say our shortfall is just 3.5 million because there are still things we need to address. So,
What others?
okay, so
'Cause we do have
fire
contracts.
contracts,
We have contracts.
historic horse racing with the events complex. I know we were going to give them some of that revenue. There's currently nothing budgeted for that. My question on that was, I did watch the meeting on that and Candy did inform me about that. We are providing them, I believe, 30% of the amount of the historic horse racing from last year or from this current year. Is that correct? From fiscal year 22 that we received? And then we will also be doing it going forward.
Oh,
I thought it was just moving forward. I could be wrong.
Okay, that's not what Candy told me, but it.
Of course not.
So are we just distributing that as we receive it then? Just we receive the check and then we go ahead and turn around and give them 30% of that? Is that? I didn't understand how that was going to work from the discussion in the commissioner meeting, how that was going to be dispersed, when it was going to be dispersed. But there is currently nothing budgeted for that right now. And it's
Okay.
30% of $800,000, which is a couple hundred
That's something. Yeah.
thousand.
Okay, we can get an answer.
I'm
on
gonna
that.
look at the minutes.
And I didn't know if I needed to budget for
For past.
because there's nothing in the budget
I
for
don't-
this current year. So I
Yeah.
didn't know if I needed to budget for the amounts we received, 30% of the amounts we received in fiscal year 22, plus the amounts we're projecting in 2023. So that could, if it's for 2 years, that could be,
I'll let
really
Commissioner
a
Lloyd
couple
look it up. I
$100,000.
don't think it was retro. I think it was going forward. But I
okay.
don't remember what the discussion was about, when we would pay that, if it was annually or.
There-
Mr. Chairman, there wasn't.
There wasn't a discussion of when it would be paid.
Okay.
That's why I'm asking you.
Okay.
Because I just needed to know, are we going to wait until after the end of the fiscal year and then pay it out the next fiscal year? Are we going to pay 2 years next year? I just need to know how much to budget for.
We
for
should
the current year.
probably, I would imagine as we get it, we should distribute it just like we would
Okay.
any other.
So just
Unless
after
there's
we
a-
get it, then go ahead and distribute it right after
We don't
that.
want to hang on to it and then,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they're going to use it for upkeep and maintenance and new.
Capital was
Yeah,
what I
capital
was told,
projects,
or
yeah.
what I was my understanding with capital
grandstands and-
projects.
yeah. Yep.
So,
Capital projects targeted for that activity.
yes.
Yeah, so I would say as it comes to us, we distribute it out to them.
Okay, so we'll need to budget the amounts for, so what we're gonna collect. So 30% of what we're budgeting to collect for fiscal year 23.
I have a question too.
Yes, Commissioner Tillman.
Does that include any of the COVID, the 8 million that can be used to replace lost income? Does this budget projected amount include that we were going to use 4 million this year and 4 next year, or what happened to that?
Hang on a minute. Mary, just a minute. I'll ask that in a better question.
Okay,
Did we get the 4.2? Christina, I haven't seen her. She's out, of course. But we did put in the request for the 4.2 million, the second haunch of our money. Have we received the check yet?
No, but it should be coming this
Should be
month
coming
in
here
June.
shortly.
Yes.
Very good. Then also in your cash carryover projection, are you including the ARPA PILT money?
Yes.
Okay, it's not going to get here until September.
Okay.
Maybe,
We know that it's
Maybe.
coming in September now.
maybe.
I think.
Because
she
I
said it has to
initially-
be-
Nothing until September on Pilt.
Well, that's what I
Maybe.
initially assumed was because their fiscal year doesn't start until October 1st. So I
Okay.
assumed from the beginning we weren't going to get it until
Just-
this coming fiscal year and it was going to be in
Just a point of
September.
reference. I don't know if that impacts anything.
Do we know an amount yet? Because I
No.
still have not heard an amount.
Absolutely no amount.
That we don't know. It's a big surprise.
No.
And this is in addition to our
Christine's-
regular pill. It's
Miriam,
not our regular pill.
I was sorry I jumped in, but I
Oh, that's
I
fine.
checked on all that and I thought.
Mr. Chairman,
Just a moment. So from Christina, email last night saying that US Treasury stated that the payment would be distributed by September 30th of 2022. So the end of their fiscal year.
Okay.
That's all we know. We don't know a number amount yet. Commissioner Lloyd.
yeah, so I kind of want to piggyback where Commissioner Wendling went. So in that extra revenue, you were including the PILT
In what?
in our cash carryover. So that like
No, the
Okay.
cash carryover does not include
the PILT.
the PILT.
Or-
It doesn't include the ARPA PILT. It includes the regular PILT
Not
that we
the
get
ARPA
every year,
PILT.
not the ARPA PILT.
That we're waiting for.
Yeah.
at
Not
end
in
of
the cash
September.
carryover. No, I projected, it's about 3.5 million for PILT to come in June. The
That's part of the
regular
cash
PILT.
carryover.
That is, yes.
But it's not in.
Yes, that's the regular PILT. It's not, the ARPA PILT is not in the cash carryover because I wasn't projecting it to come in this year. I initially
There's
wasn't
two
projecting it to
PILTs.
come in.
Yeah.
Now there are,
They're now
yes.
there for temporary, for whatever, for a year.
Yes, for 2 years.
2 years now? Okay, good. But anyhow, the first regular Pilt money that we been getting for years,
Right.
we don't get that until almost,
Like a week before June ends usually.
If I remember right, we've typically, like, there's been some of our the day we've met for our finalizing the budgets when we've seen that, but it's not always 100% guaranteed. Am I correct?
well, it's not
It's not guaranteed till we get it.
till we get it.
And we
then,
usually get it around June 20th, June 21st, right in that
they
time frame.
pass legislation of setting the amount for so many years, 2 or 3 years, but there's no guarantee we're going to get it. So that's that first pill. Then the ARPA pill, which was that staunch of, I don't know how many million or billion, I don't know. Anyhow, that's the ARPA pill
Mhm.
that we'll get this year and next year.
Right, in
And
September.
right now, they're saying by September. And when I said don't count on it,
Yeah.
they changed that. Now, I agree with Bonnie, their fiscal year ends, October 1st or September 30th, but by then we should get it, as the email said, but I've seen worse things happen in government.
Me too.
So anyway, does that help, Roy?
Yeah, that helps. It just kind of almost changes how I look at things a little bit
Oh, yeah.
because, when I was looking at that extra revenue, I didn't realize some of it was a PILT that hadn't come in and even though, like you said, traditionally we get it by the end of the fiscal year, it's a lot to bank on when you think about it, because I just thought it was extra revenue we thought through collection. So I wish I would have, that's my fault for not asking that right question in all my conversations with Bonnie coming up to here. So thank you for the clarification.
Mr. Chairman.
Can I ask before we move on from that,
Yeah,
when was the last time we didn't get the PILT when they said they were gonna?
We've always gotten it since I've been here and I've been here for 10
Okay.
years.
So it's pretty darn sure.
Yeah.
Commissioner Tillman.
It's
It's just a point of clarification and information. Payment in lieu of taxes is what the federal government is paying the county instead of taxes on almost 5 million acres. We're getting 3.5 million, just to get in perspective so everybody can see this. And Mr. Assessor, that's probably a pretty good tax
Pretty low tax.
discount compared to what
Mm.
private property owners are paying for their taxes.
And
Just
Senator
wanted to point
Barrasso,
that fact out.
Senator Barrasso would be happy you called it payment in lieu of taxes because I called it PILT once with him and he said, do not call it PILT. Nobody back east know what PILT is. So
They don't
payment in
get
lieu of
it.
taxes. They have no idea. back
They
there.
don't have any
They don't have it.
public land.
They might have a post office. I don't even know what they have. Oh, did we have other questions for Bonnie?
Yeah, one last question. Do you have any heart medication? Because I just all of a sudden think I need it. So
I left my nitro at home.
So is this year's ARPA money in this budget, is it set aside currently?
So the Norma ARPA money, the 8
Well, the 4.2 we've
the
received
four
this
point two
year.
that we're gonna get, that is not included in the cash carryover, and it is not included, the only part that of the normal ARPA that is included in, oh, it's not there anymore. That's included in my spreadsheet. How do I get it? Oh, okay.
It's coming back.
So I only included the amount that was approved to be spent for the capital expenditure. So there were 2 meetings that Christina came to you and they were approved. So
89 or something along those
it
lines.
was total 2.468 million between the two. I think this last one was around 1.7 and the other one was around,
And that's out of
800,000 or
that
so.
total 8
yes.
for ARPA, the 4 last year, 4.2 plus 4.2 that we're going to get. million.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is correct. So that's the first of it that we are going to spend.
Right.
That's been approved by
So
you.
that's set aside and we're accounting for that
So it is,
separately.
this year it is supplementing the grant revenue because we've already, so it's federal money, so it has to be tracked as a grant.
Mhm.
So we have to have grant expenditures. We have to have expenditures that we assign to that money.
Okay.
So we've assigned those capital projects, equipment that you have approved for that. So that equipment sits down in here in this grant expenditure number, and then you can see this grant revenues and then the ARPA approved by the Board of County Commissioners for capital. So those two numbers added together minus the grant expenditures, we come up with a shortfall, and that 228,000 is just grant match money.
Okay, great. Thank you. Commissioner Tillman, I think I interrupted you. Did you have a
No,
question?
I'm fine.
Okay.
But other than that, none of the just normal ARPA money is included in this at all.
Great. And we haven't budgeted for ARPA payments in lieu of taxes.
I put in 1.5 million in there for this year because we will be getting some in September.
Well, no, ARPA
ARPA
pilt.
You're making an estimated.
Yeah,
1.5
just
million to
estimating.
put it in the budget, and you
Yeah.
have put it in there.
Yep.
Then- Oh, okay.
That's in the revenues.
Rounds and rounds.
We don't know how much it's going to be. It could be 5 million.
I was
it could
watching it
be-
because it was.
Could be $5.
Yeah,
I don't
nice.
know.
They've changed the formula so many
They
times. I'm
have.
watching.
They have, and it for a little bit, it seemed to be more beneficial to us because they were gonna go back to, or they were gonna do it how they do the normal pilt for a minute there.
Mhm.
And that would have, we would have made a lot of money because the ARPA pilt distribution it's a lot more than just a normal annual pilt distribution. And if we're getting 3.5 million, that's.
Well, I think our assessor should send the federal government a bill. 5 million acres. There you go.
There we go.
I think he's impressed with that assignment.
We don't. Any other questions? Okay.
I have more.
Oh, carry on then.
Can I have more?
Yeah,
Just
we
some of
got
the things
5. We
I
got historic
had
horse
questions
racing.
about.
What
So
else we got?
historic horse racing. So have we decided we're just doing that going forward, Roy, or did you find something on that?
No, I'm just.
You're looking at the minutes?
Okay, I didn't
I have no
know.
poker face and I make faces. and
Did you
stuff.
find anything different in the minutes? I think is what she's asking.
What's that?
Did you find anything different in the minutes about
No.
distribution of historic horse racing? Okay.
Yeah, I just needed, so you just want me to budget the fiscal year 20, what we plan on collecting during fiscal year 23, 30% of that, and then we'll turn around and pay that to the
As
events
we collect.
complex. Okay. All right. Another thing that came up that's going to affect the budget is the Granicus software. I don't believe that is budgeted for, and I didn't know where you wanted me to budget. But it was 20 something thousand for annual maintenance. And then I think it was about 7,000 just to implement the software. So I didn't know where that was going to be budgeted. And is that happening? I assume that's all happening this coming fiscal year, not happening till July or later.
Yes.
Okay.
Where did we budget that from? I don't recall that.
Never.
You
didn't budget
you
that.
didn't
No.
say, you
think
didn't
so.
say
I
where to
think
put
it's
it. That's
good
why
at
I'm
that.
asking.
Question of if the clerk's budget if it can't be built into the clerk's budget, then we'll have to build it into the commissioner's budget. But
Okay.
Cindy, what's your thoughts? Okay. that'll just increase their budget. So it doesn't matter. It's
Let's give it to Cindy.
go
Put it in the
with
clerks. Okay,
Keep it in there.
I'll look up those exact amounts. I'll look at the estimate for that.
And Lloyd has a finger, not the finger, a finger.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just on that, taking a look at the minutes to prepare for tomorrow's meeting, it looked like we did approve $23,000 approximation for Granicus, which is what that yearly cost is, but we didn't approve the $7,000 implementation fee, nor did we say what exact budget is it. So are we going to have to take a different look at that because we only approved for, and if I remember right, it was a 3-year stand contract. So do we need to relook at that motion because it isn't covering the full amount that we were supposed to, that I think we needed to? Just a question maybe for the chairman or Mr. De Leon.
I, you know.
I thought we covered everything, but
I did too, but if there isn't something covered, then Sally needs to bring it back to us. And we'll do another motion
so
to
Roy, you're
increase
saying,
that. I think we leave the one
Look at
motion.
something.
Was not included in the
No.
motion.
oh,
Okay, then we
It
need,
was just the annual.
then we, you know, it was intended, I'm sure. Without a doubt. So we need to have Sally get that for us. Or Roy, do you have the exact amount?
Give me one sec.
If not, Sally can get it for us and put it on the next meeting. 2 weeks.
One sec. I got the Granicus quotes
Yeah.
right in front of me.
And we'll have to find out if any of that is being, Bonnie, I'll find out from Sally if any of that is being invoiced to us for this. I don't believe so, but it could be for this fiscal. It's not.
I don't
Right.
believe so.
So just put it
Starts
on the
July
budget for
1.
next year, July 1.
Yeah.
Even the 7,000, but we need to take action on that 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
Well, Mr. Chairman, maybe we should try to budget it this year since we have carryover, if they're going to implement it.
I
Is
think
it
the
too late
contract
to
started
get it?
July 1st.
Oh, okay.
What else you got, Bonnie? Well, Roy's.
The fire contracts.
Already brought that up.
I know, but you didn't tell me how much to put in.
I didn't tell you because we've got them already.
How much do I put in? I haven't seen any of them, so I don't
We'll
know
get
how
those
much
to
they
you.
are.
Get those numbers to you.
Okay, so you will email me those amounts or contracts or, okay.
Well, and some of them may be requesting equipment that the commission may ask to buy for them. So we'll have to find that out too.
Say that. Oh,
Yeah, if any of them need equipment, carry out those contracts, that'll have to be bought by us.
we'll have to see what.
We'll have to see what they're thinking.
Okay, we'll get. that to
Okay,
you
so get me an amount to put in
About 10
there.
million.
About 10 million, right around there.
Well, and I'll need to know, well, I guess it's all outside agencies, so I'll just set up the different fire departments as outside agencies and budget the total amount for each contract in
Yep.
those.
And you'll have to put the fire warden's salary in there too.
It's already in Gene's budget that he
Why-
submitted.
Why wouldn't it be under
No, sorry,
fire?
Eric's.
Why wouldn't it be under fire?
It is under fire, but the line he included in, I just
Where are
talked
you
to him
gonna
today.
put
What
the,
did I
where are you
say?
gonna put these contracts for fire?
The contracts for
Under fire.
fire are gonna go in outside agencies.
Okay. So then you could leave the fireman or the fire warden's salary in under Eric. Or
It's, they're going to keep a line. And Gary was going to get me an exact amount, maybe about 12,000 total with everything.
plus the deductions and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, it's 10 flat
Okay.
and then the add-on was 12 something. What else do you have, Bonnie?
And then there was also the approval of a deputy fire warden. That was
No
just right out
salaries.
of,
No dollars.
oh, there's no salary for that? Okay. Well, that's why there wasn't.
Strictly-
So none. I just saw that approval. Yeah, no discussion on any amounts, so. Okay, so that won't affect the budget. Okay, we've got this one. And then the commissioner's budget, there was discussion about changing the
No,
commissioner's
stay
budget.
36
Leave it the
each.
same?
Same.
Okay. All right, well, that makes that one easy. Those were my questions. So now I just need those fire contract amounts. And then I will budget the amount for for the events complex, for the historic horse racing, I'll just budget 30% of what we plan to collect in fiscal year 23 and not provide 22 amounts. Is that,
Yes.
that's how we're moving
Yeah.
forward with that? Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can I ask a question for Ms. Bonnie and just the rest of the body? Because I think it's something that could affect the budget and the personnel budget. And Commissioner Wendling brought this up when we made the raises to when we raised the salary for the elected officials was the two that still have deputy directors. Does it show and we talked about how I think it was currently a policy or a resolution that the deputy, that their deputy directors made a percentage of the salary. Does it show those raises in that budget, do you know? And are we on the fact that we're under that resolution? Because I know we had that discussion when we made those raises.
Mr. Lloyd,
Yes.
that resolution does say they're at 85%. And in the minutes that we'll approve tomorrow, it does address that.
Okay.
That the motion was made and then it was rescinded as well as a second, but there's an 85% from previous 4 deputies. Also, the caveat listed in there, it's 85% of the elected official. The caveat is that if either of those 2 elected officials don't get reelected, then the deputy position goes away. And that's basically the coroner's position and the clerk of court. Okay?
Thank you.
And that's happened previously with deputies. That's happened previously in other.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Or they resigned and we didn't replace them. Retired, I should say.
Other questions?
Yes. You've
Okay.
included all of those new salary increases for electeds in that budget.
Yes, the elected ones are
Gary,
in there.
yeah, they'll all get added through Gary's department, won't they, Bonnie? HR?
There, yes, the elected officials
All
are
the
in there.
increments as well as
I
the health.
Don't
insurance.
know if I could look really quickly if you want me to check to make sure the chief deputies are in there.
There's been some time, I think we want to make sure they're in there, so please. Not right now. Just make a note.
Oh, well, I will definitely make sure they get in there.
All right, we don't need to,
But I don't know if they are in there
don't take
currently.
time right now because, we got time.
I didn't know if they had been approved or not yet, the increases, so, because I knew that was
salaries?
supposed to be for the chief deputies.
Well, it's just that 85% of.
Okay, and I didn't know if it was gonna stay at that.
Yes.
That wasn't,
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
that was, we decided we didn't need to take action on it because it's already there.
Okay.
There by
Statutorily
resolution.
there.
Okay,
So we just left it alone.
okay. I thought that was a discussion for tomorrow, so.
Oh, no,
All
it's
good.
budget. We can have it today.
Well, we can, but I didn't know it had already been decided that that's what was gonna happen for sure, so,
Years ago.
okay,
So we left it alone.
okay. Do you want to go through these budgets individually? What do you want to do?
Today?
Decisions? No?
Mr. Chairman,
Do you want
Yeah.
to change any of them?
just a heads up, I just got an email from Brenda. She said the chief deputy positions have not been updated to the 85% in the budget yet, but they
Okay.
will be.
They will be, okay.
It's a few thousand. I mean, it's not a lot.
Yeah, there's only 2 of them, so it's really not a big dollar amount.
Are there changes or things you would like to discuss today in the budget overall? I think, in my opinion, Bonnie's done a great job she provided me with suggestions and I went through those and talked with some of our folks to find out what their thoughts were. Seeing our cash carryover and the responsibleness, I think, overall of how people have budgeted this year, I'm quite happy. I don't know that there's anything that really jumps out at me that is like, oh yeah, we need to change that here or there. I do believe that we did a good job of taking care of in-house first with our core, getting the raise, their COLA for our folks here was great. And again, they've come in with budgets that are I think, realistic with the economic times that we're in and the inflation that we're seeing and things. And so while we could trim some here and there, I do think that it's pretty realistic. And then learning of our valuation and our carryover, I don't see a lot of nitpicking, but I'm certainly open to it as well. So your thoughts on the overall budget?
I need to do, there's a few things that I'd like to
Sure.
ask some questions on. But other than that, I'm good. Things are looking in the right direction.
Of people who aren't here, you mean?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, okay. Doc, how you feeling?
Well, I see the numbers have been turned in, but I still think there has to be an opportunity for 5 of us to sit and go through each one and, we may be in good shape because of the soft money that's been provided for us. And we know we're going to get soft money still for a little bit. I don't know how long the economy is going to continue to the way it is for valuation purposes. So I don't think it's a time to carte blanche, walk away from outside agencies and component units and say, hey, what they've submitted is what we're going to do. So I personally don't think that should happen yet. I think we should go through them all as 5. Second of all, commissioners have worked very hard on not only with Monty to get the request forms put together, but they also had questions on those forms that, with my understanding, we were going to come back and look at those budget requests and have the conversation amongst ourselves as to whether or not those were the dollars we were going to give them. And that's why we started this process so early, is to give us time to come together and still look at them. I mean, there's outside agencies out there that, as far as I'm concerned, still need to go out and earn some dollars on their own and not continue to dip into the deep pockets of the county. Now, is that all of them? No. As we heard through the general taxes, when we tried to run that initiative over a year ago, people were saying, hey, why should we pay more taxes if the county's going to continue to fund out outside agencies when they aren't mandatory by statute to continue? I get it. And we heard a little bit about that as we've been moving forward on specific purpose tax. So I still think we have an obligation to the taxpayers of this county to look at the outside agency and component units and begin to determine that they need to, here's the money you need, here's not the money you're going to get because you want it. So I still am looking forward to that exercise and the discussions around them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Other comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lloyd.
Yeah, I'll just say I've shifted a little bit since I walked in the meeting, because when I walked in the meeting, I thought our revenues were higher, not because of the pill that we should get, but we're not 100%. It's not always 100%. I kind of had the feeling that it's pretty late in the game to make some cuts to folks without giving them much time to adjust. I still think we need to be considerate to that within the timeframes we're at. But I do think we need to take a look through and make sure we are doing diligence, because I guess I almost don't know if I consider our extra revenues exactly more as much as I thought they were, based on the fact that we still haven't received that payment, and we're banking on that it will come in at the end of the month like it typically does. But what if this is a year it doesn't come in? What if this is a year I bet on black and it turns up red? So I do get concerned a little bit about that, of budgeting money we don't have 100%. So I do think it could behoove us to have some further discussion and break down some of those concepts. And one thing I want to be careful for is making sure I don't know, I think we need to look at the budgets, but we need to be careful, I think, in how much we hit some of our inside agencies and our own folks, because it seems to be that's where we put the most punishment to and to find the most money. So that's just kind of where I'm at. And I know it's a little bit different than the conversation we had prior to the meeting, Chairman Smith, but I do think the information did change slightly enough to make me take a little bit different viewpoint.
Mr. Chairman.
And again, Bonnie, is the built money ever not come in?
Not in the 10 years I've been here.
Okay. I feel it's pretty darn close to 100%.
Yeah.
Commissioner Wedling?
Well, then why did we do all this?
Mhm.
We could have met a whole lot fewer meetings if we weren't going to follow through what we originally intended to start with when we talked about changing the budget procedure last October and moving in that direction. We were just going to go with what people asked for and talk with them like we did. That's all good. But if that's where we're going to leave it, then we don't need to meet anymore for budget. It's done. Just bring it forward and we'll approve it based on what I just heard. Thank you.
Mr. Sherman.
Mr. Chairman. I wanna
Commissioner
clarify-
Shanefield.
Was that Mr. Smith?
Oh, Commissioner Shanefield.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
So I guess I take offense to the fact that saying that we haven't been working on it, because I've been working on answering the questions that I've had throughout this whole process. So when we did, and I've used many of the questions that were answered, the carryover, the other things that we had people fill out that application, I've been using it through this whole process when we have meetings and everything else. So I don't know. I mean, I think that we can sit down and look through each one and compare them all, but I've been doing that this whole
And
time.
I didn't,
And so I think that we definitely, yes, I think that it's been a very good process. I think we do need to at least have one additional meeting to follow up and see the bigger picture. But I think that this process has been much improved from the years past, and that the information that we've gotten in this application process has been much more and has allowed me to ask a lot more questions and understand where these agencies are throughout our community.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Wendling.
thank you. My point wasn't that each of us were not working on it. My point was, why all the meetings if we weren't going to work towards our projected outcome? That's what I was pointing out. All of us have worked on the budget outside of just the workshops and talked with people. Everybody has. I'm not saying nobody hasn't worked on it. We haven't done anything. I'm just saying the meetings have provided, well to do that. But my point is we still didn't meet the outcome that we projected we wanted to move to. And that was to look at outside agencies, component units, and determine if we wanted to continue to fund them at the levels we were.
And I would say that I have done that process and I feel good with where things are this year with their asks. Just because we went through the process wasn't, let's determine how much we want to cut them, but let's determine if they are worthy or they're spending their money wisely, the days cash on hand, all
So
those things.
We
So,
did go through and grade all the applications as the group wanted to do with a grading rubric that we were supposed to have. Is that correct?
I don't know. I mean, I've looked at applications.
Well, I have
for
too. I'm
references.
not saying nobody has looked at them.
Well, all I would
I
say
mean-
is that we're certainly open for more discussion. We'll have at least one more meeting. And if there are areas that you'd like to see changes, then all I was doing was saying my opinion of I'm good with where things are.
Oh, I
And so
understand
if
that.
there's dissenting. opinions,
I think too much. Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Because I'm.
And
gonna
I feel
see
like
too
I have
much-
used this is the most informed I've been in my,
Oh, I agree.
fourth year in the
I agree.
commission.
It's gonna.
I've
Yeah,
never
mine
known
in
this
8
much
years.
about it. Yeah, yeah.
Mine in 8 years. I agree with that. I mean, I don't have any issue at all with that. At all.
Yeah,
Or
so
us coming together and done what we've done. I'm just saying whatever happened to that initial component of sitting down and having discussion of, are we going to continue to fund at this level? We've got a huge amount of soft money this year. It's going to go away real quick. That won't be there again.
Commissioner Lloyd, I know you've been waiting over
Yeah,
there. Sorry.
and I just want to point out when we did, I do agree the forums have been, and the outside information has been a lot better and has been able to prepare us for the meetings, but to also remember when we had our first couple meetings, we didn't have, for especially some of the component agencies, we didn't already, we met with some of those organizations prior to having their forms turned in. So some of that critical information that we were able to break in came in after we met with those organizations, just to, make that point, because one of the nice things about, I think, in those new forums, and I will tell you, I'm kind of privy to them and I kind of like the work that committee did on them. By the way, I love the committee. Let me just throw that out there. But I think what we do, those forms have truly gave us an opportunity to look at those budgets and take a look at things in different ways. Have organizations found ways to be efficient? Are they finding ways to try to be more sustainable? But some of that information for some of those organizations we didn't have prior to meeting with them. And I just think that's something to throw out there. And that may have changed how we ask some of the questions.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Tolman.
I feel pretty good about where they are, except there are a couple of them maybe that have had 200 or 300% increases. Maybe we just need to look at those and see if we think they're valid. I appreciate all the work that Bonnie has done to give us the comparative summaries. We have honestly had at least one meeting a month since January, specifically dealing with budgets. So I can't say that we haven't vetted it thoroughly. I feel like we've done a pretty thorough job of it. It's just down to the final issue now of, are there any maybe that are kind of out of alignment? That's where I'm coming from.
Be happy to entertain a discussion about any of those. If there are any in particular that you're concerned about today, that would be, I guess now's as good a time as any to discuss them if there's issues.
I have one more thing that I thought of that
Okay.
wasn't in my notes. Ambulance, Castle Rock's request was, let's scroll down to the amount.
700,000.
Yes, but I thought, I don't know if there's a contract for them
Tomorrow.
yet.
Tomorrow.
Oh, that's on tomorrow's agenda. Okay, so am I leaving that amount at 700,000 or do I need to
Till tomorrow.
budget? Okay, so just watch the meeting tomorrow and see what you.
Well,
approve.
that's already been said publicly.
Not approved, but yeah.
Not approved, no, but it's been said publicly what it could be.
Yeah, the 1.8 million.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
So I didn't know what you wanted me to do.
just leave it until tomorrow.
Just leave it until tomorrow and
Then
then
you
whatever
also-
you approve
Good
tomorrow.
possibility you'll have to put Sweetwater Medics back in there
For
6
5,
months.
6 months. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that was
But that would
Uh-huh.
also
a
be,
possibility.
Oh, no,
it
that's
won't, it'd be offset. Like the contract, they think is somewhere around December, but maybe earlier they can
Okay.
accomplish the contract and start. And that would be when Sweetwater Medics ends. So I think there's going to be one pool of money for ambulance, and then it might be going Sweetwater and Castle Rock, but
And that's going to be decided tomorrow? Okay, so I will get those amounts from the meeting tomorrow.
Sweetwater on there.
no.
I just looked, unless you were going to amend it. No, Sweetwater's not on tomorrow.
Sweetwater Medics?
We'll do one at a time.
No, it's not. We're not. No.
Till we get through tomorrow.
Okay. I just wanted to get these numbers as accurate as possible. I do have to do the advertising
Mhm.
for the public hearing a week before the public hearing, which means it'll be advertised next Wednesday because we are having it the following Thursday, which means I actually have to get to the newspaper by this Thursday. So it's just trying to get, and it can change. It's, the advertisement is not set in stone. That's not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily have to be what you approve, but it's always nice to have it as close as possible.
Sure. I would agree. We're getting close. We're getting close though. 23rd.
Of what? Of the hearing? It's the Thursday following this. It's the 23rd, I believe. It's a Thursday. Is the 23rd a Thursday?
That'll be our
Yes.
approval meeting.
Yes, it'll be at 5:30 PM. We'll do the hearing and then adopt the budget, and I will bring the resolution.
July.
June,
June.
June. Yes.
2 weeks.
In 2 weeks from Thursday. Did you get that?
The budget hearing will be a Zoom meeting, please.
I'll try not to. Last year I got locked in my campground. I didn't get to vote last year. That's right.
So,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
so that would mean we'd have another budget review on the 22nd. Do we need to have one also next Monday on the, I guess that would be the 13th to kind of go over some of the individual review this we've talked about, or what does the commission think as a whole in that?
So if we were to have another next regularly scheduled meeting would be Monday the 20th.
Mhm. Yes.
Before our commission meeting on the 21st and approving the budget on the 23rd.
Yes.
So not the 22nd. 20th would be the next regularly scheduled meeting. We can meet if the commission would like to bring up, anything with any of these, I guess that we can meet again next week. We can meet later this week, whenever you'd like to discuss those. Like I said, I'm willing to listen to everything, but the questions that I've had, I've asked of some folks, and again, when I see our revenue and the carryover, I wasn't the $25 million in reserve guy. I was the $20 million in reserve guy. So to add more to our reserve this year seems hard, but again, that's my opinion. And there's 4 others here, and totally welcome to listen to those. And I can be swayed. I'm not. I just haven't seen a reason for changes yet.
Yes.
Commissioner
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lloyd.
my only pushback to that would be the slight that some of that we're taking a look at as the cash carryover isn't 100% guaranteed. So what happens if we count on the PILT and it doesn't come in the end of June, and now we're 3.5 short? That's my only concern. And even though there's a great chance it's going to be in, I'm not going to go buy a F-150 if I can't afford it right up front and know I have the money. So
Sure.
even though I really want an F-150.
Go for 250, Roy.
50, there you go.
Diesel.
I don't know.
Is it so cheap
Right now, I'm
now?
thinking of a Tesla.
Because diesel's cheap right now.
Because diesel's so cheap right now.
Then I don't have a problem with the PILT money. But again, I'm willing to listen to changes. I think that there's a much greater chance that it comes in. And if we cut our budget by $3.5 million, that we're adding $3.5 million to our reserves, which I am opposed to greatly. But again, willing to listen to other ideas.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just want to echo too, from your comments that, I mean, we're given taxpayers' dollars to spend throughout our community and to, keep our community whole and to keep the services that our community needs. And so I think in looking at this budget and looking at what we've got coming in, we've always had PILT come in at the end of June every year. It's nothing different than what we've planned on for the past 3 years that I've been here. And so I think that, I feel good about where we're at, and we had planned on lowering the money in reserves already, and that it looks like that's not going to happen. And so, the tax dollars were given to us to spend in our community, and I think we do need to do that. So responsibly, obviously, but
Responsibly, yes.
Mr. Chairman, I concur. I believe in being conservative, but I think we're within a range of being healthy this year, of coming real close to a balanced budget. And I think I'm satisfied where we're at. We could beat this up a few more dozen meetings, but I'm not sure we're going to end up in a different spot.
Thank you. Any other comments or topics for discussion of this meeting? Good. Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bonnie. I know it's been a lot of work. Dave, thanks. And thank you for coming and presenting to us today as well. We appreciate that, giving us some more insight. With that, I would entertain a motion. Well, do we need another meeting? When would we like to meet again? I guess that we'll discuss.
Mr. Chairman, I have about meeting doubt on this, honestly. I don't see what we could do different. I mean, maybe
We could
Mr.
have,
Wendling and some of them can see something different. Maybe Bonnie can see something. I don't see that we can get into a different position.
we could have a very brief, usually the last budget workshop is very brief. We could have it just following the commissioner meeting that, the Tuesday, the 21st. That's I mean, we historically
We
did them
used to
then.
do it, huh?
But then you wouldn't have
Well,
to come all the way here for a separate meeting and it can just be a
10
10-minute wrap up. This is what's changed in the last 2
And
weeks.
I'm very astute to being able to read the tea leaves. So
Yes, you are.
thank you.
Might be coffee leaves this time.
So, yeah, no, it would be good to be up to date, receive, so we know what we're
That
voting
or,
on
or I can
Thursday.
just send you everything. I mean, I do plan on sending you the resolution before I hand it to you to approve it. So I could just send you that, or we could have a workshop, or we could just do it by email. Because that's all it usually is just an update of where we are with just the changes that have
final
happened
numbers
in
and-
the past couple weeks. I can give you an updated
We got
cash
our pilt money. You can
carryover.
tell us about that.
We might not even have it by then.
Then I would
You're
feel way
feeding
good.
into
No,
Roy's fears.
I'm not saying we're not gonna get it. I'm saying we might not have it yet by then because it's
Not what Roy's hearing.
usually,
That is not what Roy's
You
hearing.
can.
I think we're gonna get it. I
think we're gonna
doubt
get it
that.
Too, but I think you can
Um,
put it into anticipated revenue.
Well, it's just in the cash
Yeah, just
carryover right
cash
now.
carryover,
That's
so
where it is right now,
just
which is
put it
what
there
you're,
and-
based on this budget, you're gonna use 3.5 million of it to balance, but I don't even have the fire in there. I don't have the increase in the
Put all
ambulance
that
in there.
together
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would love to, once I get those numbers.
tomorrow.
I don't have the fire numbers. I just have the
Well, the fire
700,000
numbers, the
ambulance
fire numbers
numbers.
would be estimates approximately.
'Cause it's-
Oh, are there not
per
gonna be
call.
contracts?
We have
There's
contracts.
contract, but
yeah.
it's
We got
per call.
contracts, but
Oh.
if you get a chance to visit with John or talk with him, you'll see it's per call,
Oh, okay.
and
projections.
we don't even know.
Well,
if they're
tell
gonna-
me how much to put in the budget. That's what I need.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's gonna change that. I imagine the fire number and then the ambulance number are
Oh.
gonna change
The nice thing about
change the
that is if you
numbers amount.
overestimate it the first time through, it's just gonna come back in cash carryover.
Yes, that's correct. It
So, I
will.
mean, it's just like another reserve account. Unless you underestimate it.
That's true. Then it takes away from the cash carryover and then we could have a negative.
Either
cash
way, you don't have
carryover.
any choice, do we?
We've never had a negative cash carryover since I've been here.
No, I know we have.
I was scared last year.
I know you were.
My first projection was negative, but that was back
It
in
was.
January.
Thanks for fixing it. We appreciate
Thanks for bringing in all this extra revenue late in the end of
Well,
last
That
fiscal
was
year.
everybody was in the same boat. We weren't the only ones.
Was not looking good.
No, not a year and a half ago. It was not.
So a meeting after our regular board meeting on the 21st.
Do you want that? Or we don't have to have one if you don't want. It's up to you.
I'm asking the pleasure of the commission here. I think that's a good idea, if not sooner, but I think that by then we'll certainly have all the, everything finalized. So we'll know what we're voting on Thursday. The following Thursday, the 23rd.
Yeah.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
Aren't we doing policy handbook?
Nobody here.
No, well, I talked to Gary and asked him to do it next time or next
Okay.
month down the road. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I didn't hear any opposed.